Welcome, everybody, to episode 24 of our Myriacast podcast. With us today, we have a very special guest who's been here before and who's already posted Ayaya into the chat. This was here for our Overwatch conversation months ago. Had to have been months ago at this point. And I asked him in particular to come back because we're going to be talking about looter games and looter shooters, and Destiny's a pretty, or this is a pretty big fan of Destiny 2. Thought it would be a good fit. So let's do a quick introduction. So I'm Otto. I have my co-host here, Spoon, and I'm told by Spoon that Spectrum's powerful today. So we may get
Yeah,
him cutting out once in a while.
it's not good. I'm gonna be cutting out here and there, but we deal with what we've got. So there we go.
Exactly. And then for the Myriathon, there's a couple of new announcements for today. Let me just make sure I get all of my ducks in a row for this. So, the first thing I would like to say is be sure to follow our socials. We have a Twitter at the Myriathon. YouTube is just the Myriathon. And we are also discussing and figuring out our next charity marathon, which so far we've tentatively looked at and are planning on setting up this charity marathon in support of Charity Water. We are also looking to run this event scheduled sometime December 18th weekend. However, there's a couple things that we haven't figured out yet. Thing number one in particular is the name. So we have decided this year to start kind of polling around our little community and asking about good names for this winter marathon in support of Charity Water. We also are not 100% sure about the particulars of if it's going to be, we'll say online like the other one, or if there's going to be some kind of hybrid type of format. That's something that we're still discussing internally. But for naming specifics, we're looking for everybody to help us out with a cool name for this particular marathon. So be sure to follow the Twitter for updates on that. And we also have a Discord community if you're interested in sort of pitching in any way regarding, helping to figure out games that we can play, but also that name I just spoke of before. And now let's sort of shift gears a bit to gaming news topics. So I've got a couple of different topics here ready for us that we've talked about. And let's start with our first one here. I'm going to go ahead and transition to my awesome watch screen. There you go. It's looking gorgeous as usual. The last week, I believe this was. So this was 6 days ago, according to the date of this article. 343 Industries announced that Halo Infinite will be delayed and will launch in 2021. The original release window was supposed to be holiday 2020, so I guess late November or sometime December. But they've decided that specifically with issues regarding COVID, as well as I think part of it being different updates, we'll say, from the event that they had with Xbox Game Showcase, and people saying that the graphics weren't exactly up to snuff. Maybe some motivation behind the delay is give the team some extra time to clean things up a bit. So currently, again, no hard schedule, just sometime we'll launch in 2020. The other thing that I will sort of highlight is, as a part of this, this means, and we got some information, I don't exactly know where, I'm not sure if it's in this article specifically, but the Xbox Series X launch window is supposed to be sometime in November, like late November holiday window. So this Halo Infinite will launch after the console will release, which is a bit unfortunate because this was sort of the flagship for the new console's release. So I'll turn it over to you guys now. Spoon, you can obviously give your thoughts, but Vis, I actually don't know how much Halo you've played. I don't think we've ever talked about it, but if you have anything sort of you wanted to add, feel free. So I'll turn it over to you guys now.
Go ahead, Biz.
Okay, so personally, I don't have too much Halo experience, but I know that Halo was kind of the big Xbox deal back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
and I can imagine this is not a great sign for the Xbox launch if their flagship title is delayed.
Oh, it's horrible, but it's a
In,
really it's horrible sign. But go ahead, Spoon.
in terms of console sales, yeah, I think it's bad because I now they don't have a big flagship or blockbuster game
Hmm.
that they're launching the Xbox Series X with. At least not one that we know about yet. If they are gonna announce one within the next 3 months, they better do it soon. Because yeah, I mean, I think overall it's a good decision. People weren't really happy with the gameplay reveal and the graphics and just the way it was looking. So I think the delay is the right call. A game that is rushed is forever bad. I mean, I guess they can patch it, but it'll at least tarnish the reputation of the game on the
Right.
release if it's poor on release. A delayed game has the chance to actually be good when it comes out, at least. So I think it's the right call. It's definitely gonna hurt the sales of the Series X almost undoubtedly,
Mm-hmm.
but as we've talked about in the past, they don't seem that concerned with that. I'm gonna be honest. They want to sell Game Pass subscriptions, and I think they're doing a good job of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, yeah, I think it's a good decision overall. I think most people who saw it are happy that they made this decision after the backlash, and we'll see how it turns out. I mean, hopefully, it's the blockbuster they want.
Yeah, and I think this is also a game that they plan on having be the Halo game for a good majority of the cycle of the console. I think the idea of this game being delayed is good because I think that this is a game that's supposed to last a long time. I feel like that was something that was shared as a plan for this game. So I hate to say this term, but live service type of deal. Um, okay, so that was just Halo got delayed. Let's move on to the next thing. I'm gonna do this one pretty fast. I just found this really poorly, like, kind of grainy screenshot, but um, last week, I believe in particular, yeah, last week, August 13th, um, Epic had launched in Fortnite on the iOS store and I think on Google as well on the Android store this option to pay Epic directly from iOS to sort of circumvent this Apple Pay system. Apple generally, through any purchases made through the iOS App Store, will take about 30%. So there's Epic has decided to try and circle around that, and because they tried to do that, it breaks terms of service, and Apple just pulled the plug on Fortnite for the App Store, and I believe Google removed it as well from the Google Play Store, I believe. So just I mean, it's kind of a big deal. I think Epic actually is trying to pursue litigation on this because they want to not have to pay the 30% to Apple. So I've seen a lot of people talking about this, like basically taking sides. I mean, unfortunately, Apple Pay Store has their rate. Nobody ever said it was going to be great or perfect, but you broke terms of service, so they're obviously going to kick you out. It's kind of the way it is sometimes with this stuff. So, any thoughts, Spoon or Vis, before I move to the next thing?
I mean, I'm no expert on
Mm-hmm.
contract law or the specifics of Apple or Google's terms of service in terms of these things, but at least from my very outside point of view, this seems very clear cut to me. You may not like it, but Epic broke terms. If you want to have your app on their app store, they're not going to allow you to circumvent their Play service. That
Mm-hmm.
seems obviously against terms of service. I
Right.
I, I doubt Epic. I mean, they're going to try, but I doubt they'll have much recourse on this one. Again, I don't know the specifics of the contract, but it's the same thing. Like, if you want to put your game on Steam or on Epic, you're going to have to pay some premium to the company that's hosting your game on their service.
Mhm.
Like that's just how it goes. So, this seems silly, but
Yeah,
whatever.
but yep, 30%. Just we're trying to cut out 30%. Anything this with? Oh my goodness, with your cat there? Goodness.
Uh-huh. So I'm in complete agreement with Spoon on this matter.
Mhm.
Like this is the first big case, but like he was saying, this is exactly the same as paying a Steam premium or anything along those lines, right? Like
Yep.
you're hosting your game on this platform, you have to go with their rates.
Yep.
So
Yeah. I mean, Apple takes a big cut, but they have at this point the right to do that. Even though
As,
it's
as
you can
does
think,
Steam.
yeah,
Steam is what? It's like 20 or 25%. It might be 30 as well. I don't remember.
it
It's huge.
changes depending on the sales of your game, I guess. Like
Okay, yeah, that's right.
the rate changes, but still, like they can do that. They can charge it, and that's every lot of you got to go through the iOS store, so of course they can charge this 30%. But yeah, I mean, Epic broke the terms of service if that is for sure the case, which it just seems like it. So yeah, they're gonna pull the plug. Um, yeah. Anyway, let's move on to the next thing. So this is going to be kind of a short one. Ghost of Tsushima, a game that came out, I would say recently is a inappropriate term, is coming out
one month ago.
Yeah, is coming out with a additional online co-op multiplayer mode called I believe Legends is just the term of it. Yep, Ghost of Tsushima Legends. It will be coming to PS4 this fall, and the big thing about this is it's completely free. It's going to be, as they say here and here, it's an entirely new experience. It's a separate mode that doesn't follow the main character. I assume this is the main character or the companions from the journey. Instead, focuses on 4 warriors who have been built up as legends in stories told by the people in the game, or in Tsushima, I guess. And so it seems like you and another player can join in this mode, choose different character classes, and do some story missions. And looks like there's some hordes of enemies. That there's like wave-based survival missions. I think the big thing that people were looking at is it's free. That's something that I guess nowadays, like you just expect something like this to be a paid DLC. I think people were just very surprised it was free. So that was the news for this. Any thoughts, both of you, for this? I don't know, Vis, if you played Ghost of Tsushima, but I know Spoon has played it, so he'll definitely know the game's quality. And it's just surprising to see it be free. At least for me.
It's a good. This will be the second or third relatively substantial update. I think they did a patch like right around or maybe right after the game came out. There was just some balance, some bugs and balance fixes. They did a patch, I don't remember, a couple weeks ago that added an additional difficulty, and I think there were a few other things. I don't remember exactly. And now they have this new patch that's coming out in the fall sometime.
Right.
So yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's a fun game. I've kind of gotten distracted and I haven't finished it, but it is definitely a fun game. And we'll see what they do. I think it's a good idea to just make it a separate mode as opposed to having actually tying it to the campaign.
Yep.
Because the campaign works pretty well as a solo experience. Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it works. The combat in the game is pretty fun, so we'll see what they do with co-op. Don't forget, though, if you want to play online co-op, you are almost certainly going to have to own PlayStation Plus in order to play online co-op. So it's not entirely free.
Right.
It's free if you already own this game and own PlayStation Plus, but if you don't have either of those things, you're going to have to buy it to access this mode.
Asterisk free. I mean, obviously a lot of these, got to pay for internet stuff. Any thoughts regarding this? So
you mentioned it a little, but like that, giving out free DLC here, because by the sounds of it, this is a completely new campaign, right? Like this is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a new mode. It's a new mode. It's a new mode at least.
Yeah.
We don't know how expansive it's going to be, but it is a new mode. The game has no multiplayer right now at all. So.
And I think that's a great move because, like you were saying, Otto, that's not really the norm anymore. That's kind of been phased out. Stuff like this is normally comes with a $10-15 price tag. So I think that's a good sign for the game if they're dropping that right now for
Yeah.
free.
I think it's very cool. I think it's. I mean, free is always nice, but just like, I'm happy just because the game has done so well, and it's just like more good. We'll call it good press, is always a good thing as well. Okay, I'm gonna move to the next thing. Nintendo Indie World broadcast, which is going to be tomorrow at 9 a.m. I'm so glad, by the way, that they made a little comment in here. But don't expect the long-awaited Mario Anniversary remasters or whatever. It's an indie showcase. Maybe they should really hammer this in for everybody because last time
People are gonna be mad. Like,
this didn't work out so well, and for Cadence of Hyrule DLC, I mean, this is the best time to do it. Would be during this, and if that's what you're looking forward to, this is the day to do it tomorrow at 9 a.m. But yeah, if I see any comments about like where was Breath of the Wild 2, I'm gonna lose it. I'll lose my mind.
I mean, it's gonna happen.
It's gonna
you know
happen.
that, right?
I know.
It's going
gonna
to happen.
Yep.
The internet is really stupid. Like, they're man, where's Metroid? Where's the Mario? Shut up.
It's a partner
No,
showcase.
indie, no first party titles. Indie showcase, 20 minutes.
And they literally have to do that because the partner showcase, people went nuts. So, anyway, any comments too here about just like I don't know, like I actually don't know how many, like I know you play Pokemon, but any other stuff that you are like really into from the Nintendo side of things?
So I actually, the last partner direct, I was really excited about that because I play SMT, which had a couple of big reveals last time they popped up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's real tragic seeing these third-party directs get slammed because they're not dropping like all the big Nintendo exclusives. So I hope whatever comes out tomorrow doesn't have to deal with the same thing.
Gosh, I just hope people read this time. But literacy can be difficult, and I understand the challenges of it, but just try and relax a little bit, everybody. This is an indie showcase. Let's let the indie games and all the indie developers shine, and show off the cool stuff that they might be doing. So, anyway, next thing.
Are we gonna do a live stream of this at some point?
I feel like we can, and I would love to. We will definitely talk about that for sure off of the podcast.
Fair.
But for now,
Fair.
I would say let's hope so. Let's hope we can do one. Maybe we'll do it this week when I'm not working. I'm only working mornings this week, so there's potential in the afternoons to do a very like a early but not too late type deal. Like not too late in the evening, obviously. Maybe we can do a quick like hour-long stream of this. But next thing I've got on my list is opting out for personal information and cookies. God, I hate this message more than anything. This message is the bane of my existence. Retailer lists Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory, the rhythm game, with a November 13th, 2020 date. Spoon? What retailer is this? Actually, I don't even know. It says an Austrian.
I don't know.
retailer.
It was either. I thought it was Australian. I guess Peggy is European. So yeah, some retailer just leaked. I mean, possibly leaked the release date for the game. Maybe not. Who knows? Yeah, I mean, they already said the game was coming out this year. We haven't heard anything about it for the past couple of months since it was announced. Sure. And yeah, we'll see. I mean, November 13th seems like a very reasonable release date for a game to come out in the fall. October and November tend to be the general release area for fall releases, so
sure.
Yep.
We'll see.
Cool.
Last
As
thing,
people know, I'm looking forward to this game because Kingdom Hearts has great music, so there you go. That's it.
I almost moved ahead too fast. Vis, are you a KH fan?
I am not. I have.
Oh, okay.
I've played a little bit of the first one, I think, back on the PS2, I believe, and that's it.
And that's it. Well, okay then. And Melody of Ether will be the Breath of the Wild for the Switch. Oof. Some Zelda Breath of the Wild fan just cried in agony at that comment. Last thing on my list here, Zelda Skyward Sword Switch port listing found on Amazon. So the super sleuths of the internet seems to have found, thank you Wario64, that briefly on Amazon UK there was a listing for Skyward Sword Remastered. So looks like it was just like somebody decided to look around and they found it just hanging out there, I guess, and I'm sure it was taken down immediately. It looks like, yeah, which it now leads to a dead page. Then there's just some more information about that. So yeah, I guess potentially this could be a thing, but really, to be honest, maybe it was just like at this point, if somebody did find the find a listing on it, it's almost, I'm almost thinking yeah, this is real. It's just somebody screwed up and accidentally pressed live instead of draft mode, we'll say. So thoughts, Spoon?
I would not be surprised if this is real. That
Yeah.
Nintendo's been porting a lot of stuff to the Switch, either remastering, remaking, or porting, and this would just be the next on the list of games of
Sure.
Nintendo to port to the Switch. This was a Wii game as opposed to a Wii U game, so I would guess this one sold pretty well. It's not a particularly... Well, it depends who you talk to. I actually really like Skyward Sword, but some people don't. The motion controls were a really big thing in this game, and I don't know what they're going to do with that. They will have to redo the controls completely, because you couldn't play this game on the Wii with non-motion controls. There was no option for that. You had to swing your sword by swinging the Wiimote horizontal, vertical. You had to aim your bow by aiming the thing, stuff like that. So they will have to redo the controls completely.
Okay.
Skyward Sword seems to be having the wing. I mean, I feel like every Zelda game has that, except for Breath of the Wild. Everyone loved that when it came out. But all these older Zelda games that people used to hate, like Majora's Mask and Wind Waker and Skyward Sword, people are like, "Oh man, I hate that game," and now people love it now. I don't know why, but whatever.
They find renewed appreciation for it, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it better than that. This. Are you a Zelda fan? Do you play Breath of the Wild, or?
I did play Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
Also played Skyward Sword.
Okay.
I thought it was a good game. Well, here's the cat cam again. I really enjoyed playing through Skyward Sword.
Uh-huh.
But I definitely think if they can make up a control scheme that doesn't require motion controls 90% of the time, it would be a much better game.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of annoying. Having
Gotcha.
to use the bow and sword like that, but
Got it.
excited to see it come back, dude.
Okay, very cool. Well, yeah, I mean, look, if stuff like this leaks on Amazon and such, it's can't guarantee for example prices and things like that, because I know we saw for example, I think somebody had a weird thing they found for a PlayStation 5 price leak, but the thing with that stuff is take it with a grain of salt, because it may not be the price or something like that, but if it's on Amazon's website, it's probably somebody screwed up and pressed publish instead of keeping it as a draft. So so that's all the game news that we had for this week. I have one last thing to mention. This has a soda holster. I found it on Amazon for $10. 100% Vis has a holster for his Dr. Peppers. This is...
What's so weird about that? I need to be prepared.
I've never seen this before, but $10 is a great price. Sponsored by Easy Drinker beer and soda can holster. Thank you. It is amazing that I've discovered... Every time I talk with Vis, by the way, as a side note, I discover something new, and I feel happier when I do it. So let's move into the actual topic at hand here as I delete different windows. Gotta hold the G Fuel. Gotta hold the G Fuel in there as well. Today's topic is about looter games, looter shooters, and we are. Oh my gosh, I left chat up there. And production left chat on the thing today. It's not chat today. It's Vis. There
This
we go.
could be chat. I don't
Vis
know.
could be chat if he wants to today. We had our debate with chat before. I feel like we won that debate, by the way. I think we won. I'm just gonna say we won.
Okay.
I'm just gonna say we won.
Sure. Yeah, we
Um,
won.
So looter games, looter shooters. I think when we talk about looter games, we're talking about games like Diablo, for example, the more popular ones like that. Path of Exile, recently too, extremely popular looter game. Looter shooters, we're talking about like Borderlands type games. Borderlands, Division 2. I'm sorry, I'm slowing down because I have to say Anthem. And Destiny 2 is the other prime looter shooter out. So let's just get a general idea of what a looter game really encompasses. Typically, they are RPG games in my experience, like with Diablo and Borderlands as well, and things like that. Destiny 2, I'm not so sure what I would if I would categorize it as a full RPG. It's very light on certain areas of that. But Spoon, why don't you talk a little bit about some of the looter games, and then maybe Vis can tackle some of the looter shooters and talk a bit about, like, for example, Destiny 2 would be a good one, but also Borderlands. Spoon, I'm going to turn it over to you. Maybe talk about some of these looter games that you are more familiar with.
Okay, sure. I mean, as Otto said, looter games are kind of what they sound like. There usually is a story that you play through, but once you complete the story, your ultimate goal is to just get stronger and stronger, kill stronger monsters, get better loot, and sometimes there's higher level in-game content past the story with stronger bosses and etc. that you need to improve your loot. So, yeah, usually the games tend to be very grindy in terms of you kind of repeat the same missions or instances or whatever they may be, and just kill stuff and grind for loot, grind for materials to improve your loot or synthesize new items. And a lot of times they're very, they're very luck based. If you're unlucky, you could be grinding the same thing for hours and hours or days on end and not get what you're looking for. Or if you're lucky, you could get it within the first 30 minutes or whatever. So, I mean, yeah, that's the general overview. I've played Destiny a little bit. I played Diablo 2 when I was a kid back in the day. I think Diablo 2 was actually the first M-rated game that I owned, actually, when I was a kid. And, yeah, that game was fun. I feel like Diablo was, like, at least the popular one advent of these looter-type games.
It was the king. It was the king at the time. Like, in middle school and high school, it was the king.
Yeah. Diablo, I think the original Diablo came out in the early 90s. Diablo 2 came out in the late 90s or maybe early, like, 2000. I don't want to say.
I want to say like 98, 99.
98, 99. And then D3 came out in 2012. So yeah, I didn't get that. I played Diablo 2 for what it was, but I was a kid. I wasn't that good at it. I didn't really get on the loot grind that much. I did play D3 quite a lot. It wasn't very good at first, and I didn't play it that much. But once the expansion Reaper of Souls came out, it came out, I want to say 2014 or 2015, a few years after the original game came out. They really improved the gameplay loop, I suppose, making it much more playable. So yeah, I grinded D3 a good bit. I tend to not like grinding very much, so these games I usually wear out on relatively quickly, to be honest. As I said, D3 I got into a little bit, and I played Destiny 1 a little bit as well, a little past the story, I should say. Destiny 2, I played the story, and that was about it. But I haven't gotten back into Destiny 2 since they've improved the game. So
Since expansions came
yeah,
out, basically.
yeah.
And then, so for let's move a little bit forward. So actually, looter shooters really, in my experience, kind of started with Borderlands. Did
Yep.
you played Borderlands, Vis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the first one. Okay, so
I never played the first one,
oh,
actually.
you
I
didn't
only
play the
played
first. Okay,
Borderlands 2.
yeah. Did you play the first one, Vis, or just the second one?
I have played Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel.
Okay, so you
I have
didn't.
not played the first or the third.
Oh, you played the pre-sequel. Okay, you played the pre-sequel. I'm sorry. So Borderlands 1's was I don't remember exactly what year it was, but I remember playing it and thinking like it was kind of interesting because I knew the idea of Diablo 2 and such, but the concept of adding we'll call it the gunplay mechanics, also that art style was really unique. So that was something very interesting. But I mean, if you've played Borderlands 2, you know the idea of Borderlands, and you play a bunch of Destiny 2 now, Vis. Why don't you talk a bit about the looter shooter side of it? And you feel free to focus on the Destiny 2 part as well, because I think you're more familiar with that than anything.
Yeah, so looter shooters, like Spoon was talking about earlier, they're still centered on that main gameplay loop, where the entire point of the game is just killing stuff and to grind for better loot. Like when you boil down Borderlands, that is literally all it is you're moving from point A to point B and just getting better and better drops. And that's really important because some games, like Borderlands, have good loot that it feels good to chase. When you use them, it's very effective. And it's one of the key components that differentiates looter shooters from regular looters is that since you're using guns in these games, it's much more visceral when you get a new piece of loot, right? You hold it in your hand. When you're playing something like Diablo, it's like just a small sword you're holding, right? You're not seeing a huge model take up like
Fair.
10% of your screen all the times, right?
Yeah, fair.
And I think that means in looter shooter specifically, having that loot that really sucks you in is even more important than it is in Diablo because it's more than just stats or a special effect, right? And I think I'll get into this a bit more later, but I think that can really make or break a good looter shooter. I think that's what makes things like Anthem bad, but other games like Destiny or Borderlands good. Among other things, obviously.
Anthem. There's many things about Anthem that are bad.
Yeah. there wasn't much good that was good about Anthem. But I can tell you for a fact that one of the main mechanics of the game, it being a looter shooter, the loot was not good in Anthem, and that's a problem.
So much. They screwed up so badly that they patched in more loot, and the community said, "Okay, you fixed it." And then the developer, BioWare was like, "Oh, this bug actually gave you more loot than was intended, so we're going to take it back, even though you like it." It's like it's bad when a bug in your game is something that people actually really enjoy, and they feel like, "Oh, this actually fixes the game now." That's usually a bad sign. But
yeah, and I guess we forgot to talk about the RPG mechanics that are usually associated with these games. So, in Diablo, and most of these games actually, you usually pick some sort of character class. In Diablo, there's 6, I want to say. And I'm trying to think. Diablo 2.
Diablo 2, there was a ton.
Barbarian, Paladin, Amazon, Sorceress, Necromancer, Assassin, and Druid. 7. Am I right? Maybe I'm missing one.
I feel like you're missing 1 or 2. I feel like it's more than 7. But keep going. Just keep going. It's fine. 7. Yeah, there's 7. Okay.
So yeah, you pick a character class, and your character levels up as you kill stuff and complete quests, and there's usually like a skill tree where you can kind of choose how you want to build your character. There's cool choices and progression. There's progression in terms of the loot, and there's progression in terms of the RPG mechanics. You get more skills, you have more cool things you can do. Your character just gets stronger stat-wise, and yeah, I mean, same thing in D3. D3, they streamlined it a little bit more, but I think there's still good customization. And the classes are unique. They all kind of do different things. Borderlands has a similar concept, even though every class uses guns. They all kind of do something different also. Like, one has his special skill is a stealth thing. One's kind of like a mage, and it can like pull enemies into like a vortex. There's the Gunzerker, which you can pull out 2 guns and just go in on people.
Yep.
So I think they do a good job generally of having cool progression in terms of both the loot and the level ups and the skills.
Yep.
Destiny, as Otto was saying, I found a little bit too light on the RPG mechanics for my liking. There's a little bit there, like there's some skill trees to pick some slight variation on your skills, but I always wished, as a big fan of RPGs personally, always felt when I played Destiny I wanted a little more depth from.
Yeah. I will. Oh, there's the first spectrum. Where's our spectrum counter? There it is. First one.
Already struck.
It's already struck. It's just crazy. It's very powerful. I should put a counter on the screen, but that's
Spectrum counter.
But I think that was one thing too. And Vis, you can obviously talk about this too. But that was one thing I'm as playing through Destiny 2, and I've played Destiny 1 and 2. The one issue I've always had with the game, and it's the same thing with Division 2 actually too, is I don't really consider them RPGs. I consider those two in particular. It's weird because like Division 2 does have, for example, more RPG, like you level up type mechanics, but the skills are terrible in that game. It's like a terrible skill tree usage. Like it's just horrible. And I think Destiny kind of has that issue too. Like with there are different subclasses on the classes, so but your subclasses pretty much, once you pick one of them, all of your skills and abilities are sort of chosen for you, is the idea, if I'm sort of thinking this correctly. And your only goal when you increase your loot is really to just increase that light level. And it is just like this number that decides your power level, we'll say. Among other things, once you get to endgame, obviously, there's like the consideration of the type of loot you have and how perks come into play. But the RPG elements in some of these games, either like with Destiny, they're just almost non-existent. Destiny's more of an MMO though than anything. And in like, for example, Division 2's case, compared to something like Borderlands, I think balanced really well the idea of, okay, there's loot, but the having the RPG elements with every class feeling unique, obviously, and giving different unique skill loadouts was something that Borderlands did a really good job with. Destiny 2, for me, I know the classes are different, I know what they do is different, but there's just like no skill trees or anything like that. It's just sort of like pick a class, feels a little bit more MMO-y in the execution of it. And even then, like with World of Warcraft, those classes have skill trees of their own. So Destiny's like a weird game. It's a looter shooter with almost no RPG mechanics, in my opinion. And the one thing that Destiny 2 does in particular, though, I feel, is the looter shooter, like dungeons and raids of the stuff that I've experienced is really well executed, except for platforming. Platforming shouldn't exist in that game, but that's just my opinion. So this, anything to counter there or comment on?
No, I completely agree with you guys. In Destiny, as soon as you pick your character class, of which there are 3, you are pretty much locked in. You will not be unlocking new skills as you play. You will not be unlocking new abilities. Almost all of Destiny's core progression will just come from new guns. And like you guys were mentioning, I think that's a detriment to the game overall. There is smaller things you can do later in the game that are based on your armor. But again, that is only when you're far along in the game, at which point it feels like you haven't developed your character at all, right? It's that second half that Borderlands succeeds with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's prudent to mention that Bungie, the developer of Destiny and Destiny 2, made Halo before, so they were the original creators of Halo. They are a shooter developer, and the shooting mechanics in Destiny, at least from what I remember, are really, really good. They have that Bungie feel that feels good to shoot stuff. The guns sound cool. It feels awesome when you get headshots and you kill things. The shooting mechanics are really great, but I think you just see the studio's background, and they didn't have any experience making RPGs in the past, so... And I think their core audience is more on the shooter front as opposed to the RPG front, so I think they just went with the light RPG mechanics. So I can see where they're coming from, but again, as someone who is more of an RPG player, I would have liked more RPG mechanics in Destiny.
So let's talk a bit about. There's one thing that I do want to kind of compare and contrast here, and I think it's going to be hard to really compare perfectly. So let's take an example. I'm going to use Destiny 2 again, just because obviously I'm sort of in the middle of it, and I think with this, I think we also know more about like Diablo and such. So it's going to be good to talk about this part of it. Destiny has implemented raids with the MMO execution on it, but there's also games like, for example, Borderlands. I never really felt like any battle was specifically what I would consider a raid. I'm curious to get your guys' opinion on this. Would you, in the experience that you guys have had with like Borderlands and with Destiny, with Borderlands, you're really fighting. You fight the bosses, sure, but you don't get what I would consider a dungeon, right? So like there's puzzles. In Destiny, there's platforming, but there's like puzzles. There's various different things you can do, and there's a lot to, we'll say, like secrets to explore. But with Borderlands, there's more just like, yes, there's the RPG mechanics that Destiny doesn't have, but Borderlands just has like bosses. I don't consider any of those dungeons like there's really nothing that I would consider puzzle oriented. I'm curious to hear which you guys would prefer in a game. Would you prefer to have like the Borderlands type of system where you get the RPG mechanics like you want, but your bosses, some of them obviously are going to be good, but there's no like puzzles. There's really not many puzzles or anything in that game, at least from my experience. Or would you prefer something like Destiny where, yeah, maybe it's shallow in the RPG mechanics side of it with level up systems and skill trees, but you're also getting really outstanding end game content that really feels like really feels fulfilling when you complete, particularly with raids. I am curious to how both of you have approached this. So I'm going to go ahead and fire this first of this, actually.
Okay. So personally, I'm in the camp that prefers aspirational content to be the best that it can be. I think a game like Destiny, even if it's weaker on the RPG side, the fact that it has high-end pinnacle content that feels very satisfying to complete for the first time and to complete multiple times during your playtime, I think that's great for a game. And as much as I love Borderlands, it's very... in my playthroughs, at least, I normally will complete my first playthrough and make it a little ways through the second. Mm-hmm. And it just hits a point where even though I get to develop my character and I have all these cool abilities, I just feel like I'm not getting to really use it as much as I could because all the bosses are just big bullet sponges,
sure.
Right? There's not any aspirational content for me to go for.
That's fair. So, and same thing for you, Spoon. And if you don't want to necessarily use like Division or anything like that for an example, but like, same thing with like Diablo. Diablo doesn't really like Diablo 2 and 3, at least, didn't feel like it had substantial puzzles, and it didn't feel like there was those like, we'll call them raid content. It was mostly you go through the dungeon that Diablo provides you and you fight the boss there, and then you just sort of move on. So
yeah, the dungeons in Diablo are more just like, they're procedurally generated for the most part, so that's kind of the interest where every time you could go into the same dungeon 15 different times, and at least the layout of it like will be different. The look's always the same. There's certain like traps and the monster types you're gonna see are the same, but the entrance and exit are going to be on different places in every floor. The layout of the maze or labyrinth that you're uncovering as you go through the floors changes every time you play the dungeon. And they enhanced this further in D3 when they introduced the Nephilim Rifts, which was in the expansion, where you didn't have to like replay through the story content anymore. You just go into this rift and it sends you into a random dungeon from anywhere in the game and populates it with random monsters. So the possibilities for this are endless. Okay, they're probably not infinite, but they're in the billions, trillions, quadrillions even for the possible combinations you can get of dungeons with monsters and the possible affixes that the monsters can have and that kind of thing. So I think that's the interest in Diablo 3.
But
One sec.
So, oh, go ahead. Not a Spectrum. This is a different break here. I was going to then ask Spoon about the Destiny thing. Destiny in comparison, like I asked you this.
I'll be right back, guys. I gotta take care of something.
Okay,
For like a
cool.
couple minutes. Just carry on.
Okay, so Spoon's going to be stepping out for personal matter. While he is, we'll be sure to make fun of him as much as possible. But maybe we can focus in here, since it's just me and Vis, a bit more on the Destiny stuff. And also we can talk about Borderlands too, to be fair. I don't know how much Diablo did you get into, by the way, Vis? I don't know if you ever got into Diablo or Path of Exile.
I have only played a little bit of Reaper of Souls with Diablo 3.
Okay.
Did not play Diablo growing up.
Did not play Diablo. Okay. Well, Diablo was very much like I'm going to call it an older series. I'm not going to. I almost said boomer series, but it's like because when I played it, I was in middle school, and you know, it was something that was like you never really understood the full compass of it when you first got into it, like in middle school. But it was something that was definitely pretty old. But Diablo 2's whole thing was your end game content was obviously to level up your characters, but you basically just ran the same dungeons so much because there's very specific loot drops you were looking for. So think of it, it was almost like you're running the same raid over and over and over again. But there was no puzzles. There wasn't really heavy puzzles with the raids, I would say. Some of the some of them did have like very light puzzles, but anyway, without going too far into detail, I'm just trying to give a good example of this because Diablo 2 is just like this massively popular game. Anybody who is like playing games in middle school, you probably knew what Diablo was the idea. It was so big. But with something like Destiny, the end game content is I think slightly different in scope from Diablo, because for one, is there any reason to create 2 Titan classes, for example, in your opinion?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
There used to be situations where you could farm limited gear on all 3 of your Titans and then just put it all onto one character, but they've since changed that. Bungie wants everybody to have one of each. So
got it. And sorry, Spoon, we're sort of talking about a little bit Diablo Destiny stuff, but for those of you that don't play like Destiny at all or anything, there's a Titan class, Warlock class, and a Hunter class. Those are the 3 classes. But the one thing that like Diablo I think did a pretty good job of is I could create, for example, 2 Druid classes in Diablo 2, and they would act completely different. One would be more of, we'll call a spellcaster. The other would be more of a shapeshifter. Completely different in how it's executed. So the end game content, when you do those raids, it's a little bit different, the focus. And I think that's like an interesting with Destiny. You're obviously, when you're doing the raids, you are farming for very specific exotics. But with something like Diablo, when you're farming those legendaries, you're farming for legendaries that really fit a very specific archetype of a singular class. It's just like kind of this interesting end game experience to try and get your character leveled up and everything. So let's see. How do we want to shift this next? Is there anything in particular that we want to... I'm going to let you decide. Is there anything with any of these looter games that you felt like you wanted to sort of discuss or like bring up as an interesting thought? Because I want to like have you sort of bring forward a couple of things too with this.
So I'd actually like to talk. I was mentioning it a bit earlier.
Okay.
With looter shooters specifically, is like how important loot is visually.
Sure.
Because I'll chain this into a Destiny comment at a later point.
Okay.
But in games like Borderlands and in Destiny, right? Whenever you get a gun and you're using it, it is on your screen 100% of the time, right?
Sure.
It's not just in an MMO or something where it's just like plus 10 attack and you get a little thunder zap every time you hit something, right?
Sure.
It's a lot more visceral. And I'm just curious if you guys have any other different opinions on that before I go on, because this will be a long tangent.
No, if you're a looter game, your loot should be obvious and different so that it feels like you've picked up something that is different from everything else. Anthem, by the way, had this issue, I think. Anthem had this issue for a bit. their loot kind of looked the same for a lot of things. Their exotics and stuff looked all the same from everything else. I think they had this issue, if I remember correctly. It might have been a Destiny 1 issue too. But go ahead, Vis, unless Spoon wants to interject on that.
Nope.
Okay.
I agree. I think in looter shooters, especially, having cool loot, especially like exotic, legendary, whatever the highest rarity is, guns is really important, and having them be unique and cool and feel awesome to fire, and cool effects when you kill enemies with them or whatnot is really important. I think it's important in Diablo and the others as well, but not as important, because yeah, you're like a top-down view. You're kind of far away from your character. You can't really tell what
Sure.
the thing looks like or exactly what it's doing, other than like plus 5 million attack or whatever it is.
Yeah. Continue your tangent,
Yep,
Vis, after your
that's
Dr.
it.
Pepper.
Go for it. Dude.
After his Dr.
Sorry,
Pepper.
gotta get your Dr. Pepper, dude. Gotta get ready.
Okay.
But, so that's actually something I think Borderlands does really well. I think it blows all other looter shooters out of the water in this, even Destiny.
Mhm.
Because with the way in case people don't know, whenever a gun drops in Borderlands of any rarity, it's randomized completely. Like there'll be different stats, different effects based on what gun parts come popped in on it.
Sure.
And I think it's a fantastic system in that game, because it makes all loot feel unique, even just the epics and the rares. It's not just the exotics that are like really exciting to get in that game. And I think that's a big problem, less so with Destiny, but especially with stuff like Anthem and a little bit in the Division.
Oh god, Division is horrible with this. Keep going.
Yeah, it's like
horrible.
Sometimes this loot doesn't feel as valuable, and the fact that it's a shooter where you're looking at it all the time, it sucks to get a gun and it basically just be the same thing you had last time, right?
Yep.
Especially in Destiny in particular, where there's not a lot of character progression, and the most tangible progression you get is your guns. If you're not getting cool new stuff all the time, you're just not going to keep playing, right? There's nothing to keep you going.
One thing I'll say about the Division real quick that I think is a detriment to it. I haven't played it, so I don't know. But the game is grounded in reality, so like that's a problem for
it's really problematic.
The
it's really problematic.
Uniqueness of the loot and the skills and the character classes. Whereas like Destiny, Borderlands, Diablo, all these things are fantastical. Destiny is sci-fi. Borderlands is kind of alternate reality, like post-apocalyptic, and Diablo's just like high fantasy, medieval with this dark twist on it. God. So they can kind of do whatever they want. So I think that's a detriment to the Division of being grounded in reality with the setting. So
I'll let you finish your tangent, Vis, but Division, I can go off on that game. I haven't played any raids for it or anything, but you know how desperate I was to try and get someone to play with me. So I'll talk about that one later. But yeah, Division has lots of problems. But continue if you had more.
Yeah. And so, like I was saying, I think, I guess this is even a bit further off target from where I wanted to go with this. But I think having that interesting loot cycle is what makes or break a good looter shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't, like I said, I think Destiny does not have that down. But I think they're close enough where they have enough interesting exotics and most of the legendaries in the game with the randomized perks that you get on everyone. I think it's close enough to that mark where their core shooting mechanic keeps the player interested, even if the RPG mechanics don't back it up.
Sure.
But I'll pop back onto that later.
Okay.
If you have something else you want to talk about, Otto?
I do. I have a question for you. Why is platforming a thing in Destiny? Go. Defend it, because I'm ready to send a hateful email or Twitter tweet at Bungie and just go nuts and do my voice. It was like, oh, why is platforming? It makes no sense. It's just like, defend it.
I actually think movement in Destiny 2 specifically is very fluid. It definitely takes some getting used to. I know you you're staring at the camera because you're awestruck, but it's true. There's a lot of depth to Destiny movement. When you get to, once you really start to understand how everything works. And I think it's really interesting platforming in a 3D space, especially when they mix platforming with actual encounters. Like, I think it's really interesting to have to move around during raid
Mhm.
encounters and be able to maximize your movement. But I'd love to hear how you hear about it, Otto.
Yeah, platforming is terrible in that game. Platforming is
Mm-hmm.
terrible, especially when you're so for me, like I really like platformer games. I really do, like the old ones too. And movement is so important in those games. Movement is like central to how a platformer needs to work. If your movement is even the slightest bit off, your platforming falls apart on itself. I do think Destiny has precise like I do understand what they're trying to do. Like especially when there's secrets, you're like okay, you want to like you got to do your precise jumps for the secrets. You know the secrets in such a place where it feels rewarding to get to it. I'm okay with this, but you know what I'm not okay with? It doesn't work perfectly, and that's the problem. So if I take a game like I'm a big Mega Man X fan. Mega Man X platforming feels really good because it's the central theme of the platforming. First of all, it's like the only theme of the game, one of the only themes, but it works because the movement allows for the platforming to be maximized to its just like ultimate potential. And it's the same thing with like Donkey Kong Country games. The platforming works because the game is not just based on it, but the movement is built around it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. It feels weird to me to say this, but I feel like Destiny 2's movement, in particular, the way that you jump and move around, even the hovers and stuff like that, it feels like it's about 75% there, but it should be. I want it to be almost
There's
slightly more
improvements
fluid.
to be made.
There's like, and that's
Gotcha.
that's my problem. Is it's 75% where it could be, and like all I hear, by the way, all I heard today from Ian, for example, who's been playing was he's like, "Gosh, I hate Warlock jumping." That's a problem. If your platforming is like inhibited because one class might have subpar movement or jumping, it's a problem, and that's why for me, like, either improve the movement by making the jumping a bit more fluid, because it's fine to have platforms that are very small and you need to precisely get on them. It's 100% fine. But your movement, like Destiny's movement, particularly with jumping, it doesn't feel like it was like flushed out to be fluid enough to make it work out well. Because it's like one of the most frustrating things. And I'm so glad, by the way, that some of the raids we've done, like precise platforming wasn't an issue, but like precise platforming in Destiny doesn't feel like it should be there in some cases. It's like somebody really wanted platforming in the game and he got like maybe 75% of the group in the meeting to buy in, but Dave and Tommy in the corner didn't see it that way, and they kind of like they weren't all working together as a team on it. I just feel like if you're gonna have platforming in a game, just make sure that it's like fluid enough where it really works and it feels rewarding to do it. I don't know. In Destiny, it doesn't. I hate it. I just hate it. But it's like I know I just hate it, so I'm biased. But even when you do it and you get it working and you do it and it feels kind of good, it's still like, but why is this here in the first place? Like this, it feels off to me to have that be a theme of the game. But I mean, if people like it and I don't know. Go ahead, Spoon.
Somebody must like it, and I think they just want to add a little variance to the gameplay as opposed to the whole game is just shooting stuff. Because otherwise, that's literally all.
But fair assessment. Fair assessment.
I think they want to break up the gameplay loop a little bit, make it more interesting. Again, I haven't done any of the raids, so I really don't know how well it works. The little bit I played Destiny, Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, it worked for what it was in the story. I kind of agree with Otto. It felt a bit imprecise at times for what it sounds like they asked for in the raids. It might help to have a little more of like some sort of resource to keep track of as far as how long you can hover, like a stamina gauge, or I don't know
you
what
just
that
guess.
is.
Like you sort of guess in
like,
some of the classes. Like some classes can jump like multiple times. The Titan can hover, and you're sort of guessing how long you can hover. It's just with practice, you better understand what the timing is.
Yeah.
Warlock just seems like garbage with jumping, so I don't really know what to say about that. It just every time somebody talks about Warlock, it's like, man, this jumping sucks. I don't know what else to say. Like it feels I do appreciate variety, and I do think the raids, like with the actual fights, I know that the jumping doesn't have to be so precise where like only the masterful platformers can do it, especially with puzzles, which is awesome. Like puzzles don't require masterful platforming, so that is a good sign. I'm going to give it credit for that. Like they don't want you to be like a professional platformer when it comes to doing completing raids. But yeah, like we did a dungeon today. I don't know what the dungeon's called. Vis, you'll have to tell me because you were watching
Pit
it.
of Heresy.
Pit of Heresy. And I'm telling you, man, sometimes you just want to be like, Bungie, can you maybe lay off a bit? Just a tad on this platforming stuff. Just a little tiny bit. I get it. Maybe lay off a little. As for the Division 2. The Division 2 really misses the mark on the loot side. Your character's visuals change very slightly. And because it's grounded in reality, you'll have like a mask sometimes. You can have like hats and maybe glasses, but that's like cosmetic stuff. That's not your gear. That's not loot. Your fundamental loot is you get a chest piece, a backpack, like I guess gloves, shoes, which is a cosmetic, and like knee pads basically. You get like a couple. Even the exotic or legendary stuff, I don't remember what they call it in that game. Even then, it looks exactly like a normal gun. And I wish I was joking, but I'm not. It doesn't even feel like the skin is different either. Like when I think of like maybe creative, like really standout skins, I think of Call of Duty Red Tiger. Red Tiger, it's so like it pops out so well. Like they could have done that where they have like really like colorful skins, but it just seems like they didn't do that. It seems like they wanted to feel more realistic than it should have been. I really wish there was more colorful skins on the guns that were exotic. And you could have done that. I think it's just cosmetic skins instead. It's not like part of the guns like when you get the Whisper Sniper, I believe I don't remember the full name of it. Whatever it's called. It looks like a gun from the Taken. It just like looks thematically like amazing. But when you get an exotic from Division 2, it thematically will depress you. Because it's just like not
it's an assault rifle.
It's a gun. You're just like
Assault rifle number 13.
The first gun that you get, there is exotics in the game and they have like different camos, I guess is the way I'm going to put it. But again, it's a gun. At the end of the day, it just looks like a gun. And that's the problem with Division 2, among other things. Division 2 has other problems too. The story is terrible. It's just like boring. And like it's weird to see bullet soaks on random citizens. It's weird to see a random citizen take a full clip of shotgun. Has hidden rubber ducks too. Yeah, they talked about that for way too long, but still. So I just wanted to touch on Division 2's problems before we moved on to anything else, because Division 2 has problems. I'm just trying to think of other things we can sort of like stew in here.
Does Division have raids? Does it have raids?
Yes, it does. Division has raids. I've never played them, but it does have raids. It does have, there's DLC in the game right now. I will say that the gunplay mechanics were solid. I have no complaints about the gunplay at all. I think it's pretty good. I think like the cover system works pretty well for the game. The skills, by the way, you just get like different equipment. Like you get a drone. That's a skill. And your drone has like a specific thing it can do. So there's a healing drone. There's like a stun drone. It's pretty awful. Awful implementation of skills.
It really feels like, and again, I don't really know if this is 100% true or not, it feels like the designers of the game are just like handcuffed by the Tom Clancy license.
Probably.
Like, they just can't be as creative as they want to be.
Right. Oh, did he get Spectrumed again? Oh, there's two.
Again.
There's
Yeah.
two.
There
it is. Go ahead. Keep going.
I mean, it's been like 6 since the last time. I just haven't been talking. So.
Oh my gosh.
But anyway. anyway, yeah, I think the Tom Clancy license is actually probably a disservice to the game
Yep.
and the creative development of the team. I think they're probably quite handcuffed by
Yep.
the license in terms of their ability to be creative with the game in terms of the characters, the classes, the skills, the gun design.
Yep.
I think it just being grounded in reality and attached to that license is just probably a huge disservice to the
Which
game.
which
But
is too
you
bad
know,
too, because like there's some good things that have been done with the Tom Clancy name. I mean, like this is playing one of those games, and the Rainbow Six Siege game is like a great use of that Tom Clancy name. It's really perfect for it. But with looter shooters, I don't know if I
yeah,
hope it's possible to do a realistic looter shooter, but or just like a realistic looter in general. But I don't know. We haven't seen it yet. Um, there was one other thing I wanted to talk about. I asked Vis to actually do some research on this. I'm 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 hoping you did. So
Tiny bit.
a little bit, okay. So Marvel's Avengers is a looter shooter that's coming out, and it's getting some
it's not.
hype. It's got some hype on it. It's not a looter shooter. I'm sorry. It's a looter game though. There's
Yeah,
loot.
it is a looter. It
I
is a looter
apologize.
game.
I misspoke. Though you can play as Iron Man, so I guess there is some shooting. Um, it is, and it feels more like an action RPG though. There are RPG elements to it. You do have like a power system. You do have like your characters have skills, and you can upgrade them. There's like skill trees. So you talked about the loot being like really central to these looter games, and with Marvel's Avengers, the camera. This isn't like Diablo where it's that cameras above you type of view, and the loot's very small. Like you're like when the Hulk is on your screen, half your screen is the Hulk. That's it. The Hulk is on your screen. However, the looting mechanics in the game do not change your appearance whatsoever.
That's a lot. That's has to again have to be a license issue. It's like, oh, these are the Avengers. You can't really change their appearance. That's
Right.
just not something you're allowed to do because you're using the Marvel Avengers license. The characters need to look how they look. You just are not allowed to
Right.
change that. So
So
yeah,
my question is: there a point to doing it that way, though? Why do you need loot in the game then? Tell me why there
So
needs to be loot in the game if that's the case.
yeah, so I think having a good split like Borderlands does would be better. A good split of having interesting loot and interesting character systems. But I think it's completely possible for the game to get by as long as their skill trees and character progression is solid enough
Mm.
that the lack of substantial loot,
Okay.
won't be an issue.
Okay.
So I'd like to see them focus on just fleshing that out if they're not going to all in on the loot side of things.
Spoon. Is there a purpose to loot if there's no appearance change whatsoever? And Diablo does have an appearance change. It's very small, but it is there. What's the point of loot if there's no appearance change? It does change stats though, so there is that. But
well,
why call it a looter game? Because I think
if
it really
it's
does.
if there's going to be no appearance change, which is looks like to be the case in Avengers, the loot needs to be more interesting in terms of its effects. It needs to have unique effects like enhancing, if you pick up whatever some item for Iron Man, let's say, that it like makes it so maybe your shot now has wider area of effect, or maybe it applies like some sort of status ailment when you hit, like there needs to be gameplay effects of the loot for it to be interesting loot, in my
Yeah.
opinion. If you're not gonna have the cosmetic
Yeah.
cosmetic side of it, which in this game you won't apparently. So
Yep. Sorry, I do want to clarify a bit. It is considered a looter game by people who play it. I've watched people play it. Loot drops. It does the exact same stuff any looter game would do. I just want to be clear on this too, to make you, sort of understand. Oh, maybe it's not a looter game. Loot drops. Also, I don't know anything about MMOs in regards to appearance, but even with MMOs, I think your appearance does change when you get new equipment and gear. To some extent. I don't know about all MMOs, but I know some of the ones I've seen, it does change. But with this game, it drops loot, everything like that. It even shows you on the character where the loot would go. It's like, goes on the arm. No change. And I think it's completely I don't. I don't want to say it's utterly pointless. But what's the point of a looter game with loot that doesn't change your appearance at all? And I know I'm sure it's a licensing thing. I'm sure it is. They're just like, okay, don't mess with the characters. Don't do it. But I don't get the point.
It seems like an odd choice for the Avengers, but whatever.
But I will say the skins for the game look fantastic. But the actual
loot doesn't affect that
looks,
at all.
Yeah, it's nothing. So that's like, would you like? What if this is going to be a poor comparison? I think. But what if Destiny just had like loot that didn't change your appearance that much at all? In fact, would you still be as interested in? Would you still be as interested? It does stat changes just like in the Marvel game, but the loot that you get in Destiny 2 doesn't change your appearance at all. Would it still be something where you'd be like, yeah, fulfilling? Would you feel as fulfilled as you do now? I'm curious.
I most certainly would. I feel like that breaks a lot of the core gameplay progression if it no longer feels like you're making big steps because you're just still shooting the same rifle that you have been since the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Spoon, maybe not necessarily Division 2 or Destiny 2, but maybe another game that you can think of that's a looter game. Like even Diablo. Like in Diablo, if you put on all your gear, like all legendary, maybe like purely like one of a kind gear, and there was just like no change to your physical appearance, would you just be like, what would you think?
That would be disappointing, but let's be honest, for the majority, well, it depends how much you play it, but for the leveling up experience of Diablo, when you're just like playing through the story and leveling up your character, the appearance of your gear makes no difference whatsoever, because you're going to be swapping it in and out so quickly. Like every mission, or every story, you're just going to get a new thing that has a higher level, better stats, and you're just going to swap it out. So I think for some people, just seeing that light level or gear score or whatever the heck they call it in the game going up, is enough, and for others it might not be. I do think having these super unique looking, sounding, feeling guns or equipment in these other games certainly helps, but part of the draw of a looter game is just the grind and keep getting stronger and seeing those numbers go up, and like
Sure.
when you hit an enemy with that same attack that you've been using the whole game, and you see it do 300 million damage, you're like, man, that was cool. See how much damage that did? Yeah, that was a big number. So I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. I suppose it's fair. Yeah, I do know, like, again, the equipment stat changes, of course, are important to the game, but even like, let's take Borderlands. If Borderlands, the equipment didn't really change your appearance much at all, or like the appearance of the guns you were looting, I feel like it would just like, I don't want to say it would be like a much worse game, because that's not true, but it certainly wouldn't be as much of a unique experience, because some of those guns in Borderlands and Borderlands 2 and 3, they're memey. Like one of them that's like a very high quality, I don't remember what exactly it is. I don't think it's legendary. But anytime you fire it, it screams. Like just like will like just a loud shriek and scream. Will just like every time you fire it. And it's got like a very specific look to it, and it's got very specific effects. I feel like if those things are removed, it kind of takes away from the theme of that game in particular. That's like a good example for it. Is like there are certain games where the theme changes for me significantly. And like in Borderlands, like if those guns did not look unique, it would just take away from the purpose of the game being like this jokey experience. Like with that gun,
I think
the gun just like screams, and you're just like, why am I using this?
That's part of the appeal of Borderlands, though, is like the sense of humor and the
Right.
meminess the game
Fair.
has. Like Avengers is obviously not going for that at all.
You say that, but that is Avengers now. That game is supposed to be. It's like they all just like make wisecracks during the game. I'm watching it and I'm listening to it, and like Iron Man just speaks in one-liners. The dialogue in the game, by the way, as a side note, is terrible. It's actually terrible in a lot of cases. It's really bad. And it's kind of like annoying at times. But it, yeah, like you say, it's like, oh no, Avengers isn't supposed to be like a funny, joking thing, but it kind of has become that now, which is, it's weird. But yeah, I don't know. That's just like Division 2, unfortunately, is just like critical. Do I think it's just a bad? Do we think it's just a bad demo? It's currently
It's a beta. The
it's a
game's
beta.
coming out in a month.
Yeah.
Like, it's the game's probably should be going gold pretty soon. Games
Yeah.
usually go gold about a month before they come out.
It's-
So,
Yeah. Go ahead. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I haven't played it. But from what I've seen, there's a lot of people who are really worried about this game. That's
Yeah.
like, yeah, this is just. No one's saying it's terrible, but I've just a lot of people saying this like, yeah, this is just kind of whatever. Like,
This demo, just I don't want to go too far off topic in this. This demo, it's far beyond the scope of, oh, it's just a demo. You know, it's probably a different build completely. This is a demo that has FPS issues, massive FPS issues, not just like little. You can go exclusive full screen in this game, and your FPS will drop to 5. And I've visibly seen it
on PC, full screen on PC. Okay. Yeah.
on PC. On console, FPS issues are still there. I've seen like crazy degree of bugs, people falling through the ground, things like that, like just getting hard stuck, crashes, game crashes pretty frequently. There's like, I've seen a couple missions actually bug out because an enemy clipped through the wall, so they couldn't actually kill the enemy, so they had to reset it. I think this is more than just like it's a different build of the game. It better be like a real early build if that's the case, because this build of the game is really dysfunctional. But anyway, that's sort of like a side topic. Okay, I want to talk actually about raids real quick, because well, Diablo and like I think Borderlands has like one raid. Borderlands 2 has like a pseudo raid, but it's like super end game content. I want to talk a bit about raids, Vis. Talk about your favorite raid. I'm gonna let you talk about
My
your
favorite raid.
all-time favorite raid. You can talk about from Division or not Division, Destiny 1, 2.
Division.
I
Yeah,
really
no, not
keep
gonna
messing that up, and it's I
Not-
guarantee. I'm waiting for it to trigger you. It's just like stop calling it Division. Your Destiny like maybe 1 and 2 raid. Talk about your favorite raid.
Okay, sure thing. So for those who don't know, there are 4 raids in Destiny 1 and 7 in Destiny 2. So there are 11 total. And I think all of them, except maybe 2, are all fantastic. And if I had to pick favorites, I would go with Wrath of the Machine from Destiny 1 and Last Wish from Destiny 2.
Okay.
You've done Last Wish, Otto. That was the one we did.
Yeah, I feel like I did it once and I carried it, but continue.
I don't know about that one.
I think I
You
carried. I think
certainly
I carried
tried.
It. I carried it. No, I'm just gonna
you
go with I
shot-
carried it.
You shot the wrong eye a couple times and got us all killed.
I also
But
called out the
aside from
correct
that,
bird. By the way, that's never dropping. I called out the correct bird.
Anyways, I think Destiny does aspirational content like raids really well, because Destiny at its core is a shooter, right? Like for 90% of the rest of the game, that is all you're doing, is you're just shooting low tier enemies, getting better guns, and leveling up. And raids in Destiny have this really cool thing where they mix this great, fantastic feeling shooting gameplay with actual mechanics where you need to coordinate with other people in the call. And it's great going through a raid and knowing that all 6 of you have a job to do, and at the end of the day there's going to be a big ass monster that's about to die. I think that's a fantastic feeling, and it's something I wish other looter shooters could really get it down.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I meant literally talk about your favorite raid. Like go through it.
Oh, you just want
Yeah,
to go through the entire thing?
Yes.
Okay.
I was like, yes, of course. Like pick Last Wish. Let's pick Last Wish. Let's do that one, because I guess I can touch on it a bit too.
So, this isn't entirely true for everything Destiny does, but raids, at least in Destiny, always have great thematic tie-ins. Literally all of them, except maybe Leviathan. Leviathan didn't really chip in. But Last Wish came out as part of Forsaken, Destiny 2's first big expansion. And throughout the campaign for Forsaken, we unlock this new secret place called the Dreaming City, right? It's way off in space. We're not supposed to be there. And there's this dark corruption that's flowing throughout the entire city. That's like seething beneath the surface. Nobody knows about it yet. We don't know what's up. And a week and a half after Forsaken launches, Last Wish goes live. And it's our objective to go inside Last Wish, this deep dungeon in the middle of the Dreaming City, and kill what's causing this corruption to start spreading out across the city. Like, do you want me to talk through encounters, or
Sure, no, just like keep going. No, serious. I'm serious because like this is a great raid. So like just like I think this is like the reason why I want to go through this is because like I think Destiny has like some unique qualities compared to other shooters, and raids is the most unique thing I've experienced with a looter shooter for Destiny. Like this is so unique. It's frankly it's kind of special actually. Like Borderlands doesn't have any of this really. Division 2 has raids, but I just don't think they're even close to this level.
So the big thing about Last Wish, the whole reason why we as Guardians, the protagonists of Destiny, know that it's there, is that there is an ancient wish dragon called Riven who is whispering to us to come and find it, to come and face it. Right? It wants to face off against us, and throughout the entire raid, we are progressing through mini bosses that are minions of Riven that are trying to prevent us from getting to the end, trying to slow us down on our progress. So, and of course, the whole time while we're going through this, Riven is talking to us, mocking us, causing Guardians to go further and further into the entire raid. And the big twist is when you make it to the end of the raid, face off against Riven. It's this fantastic encounter where you're coordinating with your teammates to shoot out her eyes, and eventually you go inside her and shoot her heart. And this great big twist that really set up the entirety of Forsaken, and why I really enjoyed Last Wish thematically, is that killing Riven is when you kill Riven, that's actually what causes the darkness in the Dreaming City to erupt, and by you've essentially fallen for her trap, and now you've doomed the entire Dreaming City. And to this day, whenever you go to the Dreaming City in Destiny, there is now dark clumps everywhere that are growing bigger day by day because of what we did in the story. And I think that thematic tie-in and mechanical depths and raids is what makes Destiny so good.
So, with the Riven part of this raid, the one thing that again I think with looter shooters is not something that you really get is these raids feel a bit more like MMO styled, and this raid I've never heard more screaming and there's like communication between different people for various different segments of it. And I think part of the challenge of the raid actually is to try and understand the person that you're working with, what they're saying, because other people are talking over you. So it's like there's so much communication. Like with Borderlands 2, for example, when you go through some of those fights, you don't really have to communicate at all. In fact, I know many fights you can just solo, and it's just like who cares. But with some of these, like the communication and the team, just like general teamwork, is really kind of special in certain areas. And like this is, I can just picture the people making this raid and thinking, you think people are going to get frustrated with how many voices are talking over each other? And just somebody's like, yeah, that's going to be the best part. Is just people just screaming over each other. I think was like one of my favorite parts to this whole thing. So, I think with looter shooters, there's that aspect of like trying to improve gear, obviously in the RPG elements that may come with it. But yeah, the addition of raids is like super fun with looter shooters, and I wish more looter shooters would include raids like that, where it's different puzzles with mini bosses, like going through the dungeon and then having like a raid boss. Not just, you don't just have to shoot the raid boss in the body to get it down. You got to do like various different stuff. I wish more would do that. So, yeah, I think like Destiny 2 is really special when it comes to that stuff. Yeah. that was my thing with that. So, just trying to think. We haven't actually talked about Path of Exile at all, too either. That's kind of weird. I know Spoon, we kind of played a little bit, but what were you gonna say?
I played a little bit. I was gonna say, as far as raids go, raids are not. As far as looter shooters go, yeah, they're pretty unique to Destiny, but raids go back to the days of
MMO raids.
MMOs. I played WoW Classic and Burning Crusade back in the day, in middle and high school, and man, Molten Core 40 man raid. Imagine getting 40 people together for a raid in
That's
the
crazy.
early 2000s, and when TeamSpeak was a thing. Man,
That's insane. I can't even
those
picture
were the
it.
days.
Just like trying to coordinate raids, like at the time before TeamSpeak, even before then, like getting all that stuff set up, it must have just been insane.
So yeah, I did, I did a little bit of that back in the day, and I'm glad that they 40 man raids was, I think, an unreasonable number of people to expect to show up for a raid. They had 40s and they had 20s at first, and then I think they reduced it to like 10s and 20s maybe. So yeah, I think, and I think it's good that Destiny, it's 6 people, which seems like a very good number of people to have. You need coordination and everyone needs to do their job, but it's also not overwhelming, and that 40 people to get to do their job at the same time, just insanity, so it seems to be a good balance. Yeah, I've generally heard very good things about the raids in Destiny. I'm sure they're not all bangers, but
I've heard Leviathan's not a banger, but that's like the first one they make you do now. There's like an early quest. They're like, do Leviathan raid. That's their intro raid. Also, I've heard that Leviathan, because it was an early raid, right? It was like the first one, right?
Yeah, first one Destiny 2.
Everybody's outscaled the raid, so I guess it's kind of like a joke when you play through the and you get to end game gear. You're just like, you've outscaled it already because it was the first raid, so it's really kind of unfortunate. But
funny thing, going back to WoW for a second, when the expansion came out, Burning Crusade, and they increased the level cap from 60 to 70, the stat inflation from 60 to 70 was so insane that some people went back and soloed some of the raids from WoW Classic when they were level 70.
Jesus.
It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically, I think, what happened. I mean, Vis can obviously talk about that, but I'm pretty sure everybody outscaled Leviathan now, so now doing it is just I'm sure it's just comical at this point.
Yeah, very easy.
So
your light level is just way above the level of the raids, so you kind of just stomp it or something.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Light level is a little different in Destiny. This is one thing where it really differs from other shooters. Is your level advantage against enemies is capped. You can't get to the point like you can in WoW where you're just one-shotting raid bosses, right? You still do cap damage. It's just the reason that Leviathan is so easy now is that they've changed a bunch of core gameplay systems in Destiny, and the short of it is that your guns are a lot stronger than they used to be. And that's what makes Leviathan so easy nowadays.
Because I guess
and they never retuned it for the new mechanics. So
I guess snipers and shotguns used to be heavy, and now they're just special, which is the lower tier from that. So it's kind of I guess pretty straightforward, since it was tuned for those to be on a heavy tier, but now it's not. So I mean, that's, again, it says required light level 750, which if you play Destiny now is what you spawn, your Destiny character spawns in at that light level. So I can't imagine that's actually the right light level. It's hard for me to believe it, but that's what it says on the quests. There's required light level 750.
So is there no actual leveling up anymore in Destiny? Is there no experience meter? It's just straight light level?
Yeah, okay. all experience. That's what I was talking about earlier. There's almost no character progression anymore in Destiny. It's all based on your gear.
It's gone. Because Destiny 1 had that, where you would do character progression.
Even Destiny 2 at first had it. When we played through the story, I'm pretty sure you gained experience and you leveled up to... In Destiny 1, cap was 20. I think in 2 it was 20 again.
Oh
and
man, I
then
forgot.
once you got there, then you can start progressing your light level by.
That's right. Okay, that's right. My gosh, it's just been so long. I just completely forgot. Holy moly. It's been so long, I completely forgot that one. It's been like 3 years since Destiny 2 came out, right? So,
Been
like,
out for a while.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just like crazy that quite a bit's changed.
And I'm pretty sure when you leveled up, you earned some sort of skill point that allowed you
Yep.
to do
Yep,
some stuff on the skill tree.
yep,
So does that just start all unlocked now, and you can
yes,
pick whatever you want?
Yeah.
yep.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, when they
Okay,
went
so
free
it's
to
even
play.
worse than I thought, because when I
Yeah,
played it,
there's
you
nothing.
actually leveled up and you made choices on that skill tree.
They
So
got
it's
rid of it
actually
completely.
wow.
It's
So
you.
okay,
It's yeah. It's not an
now it's
RPG
even.
at all.
So I was talking about it before from how I understood it in original Destiny 2 and in Destiny 1 when I played it, where there was some modicum of RPG
Yep.
mechanics, and now it's apparently people didn't like that and they just took it out
Well, the
entirely.
crazy thing is, so I remember
Okay.
booting this game up, I think even a year ago. I don't know how much changed within the last year, year and a half. I think it was like a year and a half ago. They just like don't even get you in the campaign at all anymore. Because I remember one time I booted up like a year, year and a half ago on PC, and I think this was at the time when it was still with BattleNet. So this must have been about a year, year and a half ago, and it booted you up into the PC or into the campaign. Excuse me. Now it's just like nope, it's just optional. Feel free, but nope, that's not really what we do anymore.
You can play the story if you want, but you don't have to.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just like that's what I remember. Is like I remember like playing it when it was on the BattleNet still, and it was just like it forced you into the campaign, and now it's like yeah, whatever, just skip it, whatever.
Diablo
Yeah.
3. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so when they switched over to New Light, which is their whole free to play program,
Yep.
they revamped a lot of that old stuff. Like I said, they got rid of leveling. You don't longer have to do campaigns. All old content got moved up to 750, and that was just like the base starting level for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Because they wanted to make it as quick as possible to get somebody in and get them to doing current level content,
Yep.
rather than having to spend like 10, 15 hours doing the
Right.
campaign.
Which is the right approach. It is a good approach. Yeah, no, it's a great way to start. I admit it's a very good way to start. I'm just like we're just sort of memeing on the fact like, oh, remember when it had RPG elements? Yeah, it's
I
gone
mean,
now.
I think it's a good system for what they want, especially since they made it free to play. It can be daunting to start an MMO or a looter game like Destiny if you've never played it before or you haven't played it in a long time. So you're basically starting from scratch. It's like, oh, I gotta go through all this content before I can actually get to what I
Yeah.
want to
Yep.
play, which is the new stuff and the stuff that my friends are playing that I got into this game for. So I think despite them stripping out the RPG elements, I think overall it's a good decision for the game. It sounds
Sure.
like to just get people into the game and playing with their friends as opposed to having to grind through, as you said, 10, 15, 20, 30 hours of content, whatever
Yeah.
it is, before you can actually get
Right.
to the stuff you want to do. Because
That's fair. No, I think that is fair too. So, I'm just saying I think it's funny that we used to have experience and all gone. Poof.
Nope.
Poof. It's all gone. So anyway, anything else that we wanted to sort of like?
oh,
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say about Diablo 3, I don't remember. I actually don't know, but at least for me, when the expansion came out, if you made a new character in Diablo 3, you didn't have to play through the story either. You could just
Did you?
straight up go into rifts. I think maybe if you bought the game for the first time and made a new character and just started playing, you probably had to go through the story at least once.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, every new character you make after that, when you start over, you don't even have to do the story. You can do it if you want, but you could just do the adventure mode where you just warp around. You warp around the map doing missions and slaying monsters, and then or just do Nephilim rifts to just grind and
Got
level
it.
up that way, which is a lot faster than doing the story. So they
Yeah.
did a similar thing in D3 with the expansion where they didn't want to force people to play through the
Sure.
story if they
Uh,
didn't want to.
That's fair. Yeah, I know a couple other games that do that too. Division 2 actually did that. You can just skip story, go to level 30 and move on from there, which I think is kind of interesting. Because they had their one expansion. Yeah, they have one expansion. So, cool. Anything else? Any other stuff with looter shooters that we wanted to touch on? I'm getting a no. I'm getting a hard no on this. Okay. I think we've run out of information. Can we end early? Is it possible?
I'm getting hard. I mean, we could. I'm getting hard spectrum right now. So
oh, you're
I
getting
don't
hard spectrum? Oh, well, did you have anything else you wanted to touch on, Spoon?
Do I have anything else I wanted to touch on? Not at the moment.
Man, I think we end early today. I think it's an end early. But before we end, if we do decide we're ending early, because it seems like we're tapped from information.
I want to signal boost something
signal
real
boost
quick.
Okay, signal boost.
This has no relation to.
Go ahead.
Oh.
Oh, he got Spectrum.
Oh, no.
He signal boost Spectrum.
Oh,
no!
Spectrum,
No!
killed my
That's
signal
rough,
boost.
buddy.
So this has no relation to looter shooters whatsoever.
Go ahead.
But it is a new. We've talked about 4X games on this channel before with Civilization.
Yes, we have.
It's not Gundam.
It's not
Signal
Gundam.
boosting Gundam. I like Gundam. I have my one friend who I play it with, and it's good. It's fine. This is a new game from the studio. It's called Amplitude Studios. They're based in France, and they created the Endless series, Endless Space, Endless Legend, and Endless Space 2. They also have a
he got Spectrum, I think.
That is really rough.
Jeez, this is horrible.
They get Spectrum. No.
Yep, keep going.
It is a 4X strategy game, so just like Civ, but they are making a new game. It is called Humankind, and it is their first take on the historical strategy game. So it's their take on Civilization, basically. And they just finished. They put out they call it open dev. They basically gave a bunch of people within the community and content creators a chance to play the game with these very small pre-picked scenarios. Play the game over the last few weeks, and the game looks really cool to me. I actually did get into it right at the end. I played it a little bit. I think the game looks really good. I think it's gorgeous. I think the mechanics they're introducing look really cool. It's a similar style to Civ, but it has enough differences that it's not exactly the same as Civ 6. I can tell you that much. It's quite different in a lot of ways. The game looks really cool. I just want to, for people who are into 4X strategy.
Oh dear.
Oh dear.
Check it.
Keep going.
For those who are into Civilization or 4X strategy games, check it out on YouTube. It's called Humankind. The game it was supposed to come out this year. They've delayed it to next year while as I'm sure COVID has had some impact, but while they patch up the game a little bit more before release. And give it a look. I think it's cool. I really like their other games. Like if you want a sci-fi 4X, Endless Space or Endless Space 2 is great as well. But if you're more into the Civilization and historical stuff, Humankind looks really cool. And if you're maybe getting tired of Civ and want something a little new, I think it's a good place to look. It's a really cool game. I could go into more depth, but
he'll get Spectrumed instead. So Vince's reactions are so good right now. Just the head down. It's like, oh, poor man. The poor man. Yeah. This poor guy. This is what Spoon has to go through, Vince. Like, this is crazy. Imagine going through a Destiny 2 raid, getting Spectrumed. Like that.
That would not be fun.
That would, yeah. So this is the struggle.
I don't think I'd be able to play Destiny 2 the way it's going right now.
With the Spectrum.
It's funny because the last couple of weeks, the last like 3-4 weeks, I actually feel like it's been good for the most part. But
it has.
Man, the last few days, the last few days or the latter half of last week, it's been trash.
It's been really bad. It's been really bad. Like, oh my gosh, today just. I mean, Vista's reaction is perfect.
Yeah. Anyways, check out Humankind if you're into 4X strategy games. Give it a look on YouTube. You can apply. Open Dev is over for now, but maybe there'll be another wave if you want to apply for Open Dev if they do another wave of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I hope you and Try and
I'm gonna
the other
look at
guys
it.
we play Civ with give it a look and
I'm gonna
give
give
it
it a
a
look.
try when it comes out because it
I'm
looks
gonna
really good to
I'm
me.
gonna give it a try. I'll give it an effort. I know Try will. I just know he will. I'll give it a shot, and I should be fun. I think it'll be fun. Okay. I appreciate the signal boost from Spectrum and you, Spoon, of course. But I think Spectrum won that, so I'm gonna go with Spectrum really signal boosted that.
Spectrum always wins.
This, would you like to signal boost something?
Well, we've been talking about it all episode, but if there's anybody out there who's been interested in playing Destiny, this is the perfect time to jump in and just give it a shot for a couple days. A lot of content is going to be going away in November, and this is the only time you're ever going to be able to experience it. And I think a lot of the raid content that's going to be going away is not something people should miss out on if they have the opportunity to give it a go.
Can you quickly say how many raids are going away at this point?
5 out of the current 7 that are in the game. 5 are going away. And there will only be 2 new ones coming out with the new expansion.
Okay.
So,
very cool. Thank you for the signal boost, Vis. And
why are they doing that? Why are they cutting out 5 raids from the game?
So Destiny is going through bloat right now. Like, the game is getting bigger and bigger, and Bungie supposedly is trying to remove a lot of content to make their dev cycle a lot quicker. Because at the moment it's taking them a long time to push out patches for small errors, and so they're trying to cut down on the amount of files in the game to make that process quicker.
that's
At
fair.
least that's
yeah.
given a reason.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And they are independently publishing now as
Yes.
opposed to being backed by Activision. So, yeah.
Thank you, Vis, for the signal boost. And yeah, if you do want to join Destiny 2, consider joining our guild that we're putting together. Our guild is amazing. I'll follow if Vis chugs a Dr. Pepper. And he's getting ready.
This for you, Grilly.
Here we go. He's doing it. Yeah, it is a large game, but it's free right now. If you want to get into it, you can join our little guild. We have a full auto guild named after the Rainbow Six crew as well. Feel free to join up. We actually have some great Sherpas. Vis is a Sherpa, and Ian has been Sherpaing as well for Try and I in particular. Hectic, I know, is still early on as well. So if we get one more person, actually, we'll have like a full crew for raids. So we don't have to get randoms who, for example, try and correct me on bird types and tell me that a bird looks like an eagle when it clearly doesn't. And I'm never letting this go. It's never going away.
Just a bird.
And it gets my blood boiling. It really does. So, thank you for signal boosting that, Vis. I'm going to add some conclusion stuff for this. So, this week, if we do get an opportunity, we will do a live stream, but I'll talk to Spoon about this, obviously. Hopefully Spectrum won't be powerful, too, when we do it. Of the Nintendo Indie... What's it called? Nintendo Indie Showcase or Direct? It's Direct, right?
Indie Showcase.
Oh, it's... Okay, Indie Showcase. Thank you.
I mean, it will be I'm sure it will be labeled as a Nintendo Direct, but it's an Indie Showcase, sure. Nintendo Direct.
Gotcha. So the Nintendo Indie Showcase, or Direct, whatever it's going to be called, really... we will hopefully do a live stream of this. If we can't, that'll be unfortunate, but I think we'll try and put one together. Please make sure you follow my Twitter and Spoon's Twitter for some of that stuff. My Twitter is just my name from below here with an 89 at the end of it, and Spoon's is SPT Spoon.
Yep,
right?
SPT Spoon.
Thank you.
And follow the Myriathon.
Yes, please do.
As well.
Please do.
And give us recommendations for snow-themed names for the marathon this coming December, if you have any ideas. We're supporting Charity Water, which is a charity that delivers clean water to places who don't have it around the world.
Yes.
So, very important.
Yes.
So, yeah, if you have any snow-themed name ideas for the marathon, go ahead and tweet at the Myriathon, tweet at me, tweet at Otto, whatever, message us on Discord, whatever you want. It's fine.
Please make it appropriate, though. I don't want to get tweeted something not appropriate. Please don't.
I mean...
I'm just saying it out there. I know people are trolls. Let's try and keep it clean, folks. Keep it clean. So, that live stream of the Nintendo I almost said Nintendo showcase. Hopefully we can do that. We'll also do another plays this week on Thursday. This week, maybe we'll let Spoon stream it. If Spectrum's powerful, though, I will have to pull the stream away from him. But we'll do possibly Tales of Krystoria, maybe something else. Who
I mean,
knows?
I'm not gonna be able to stream Krystoria.
Oh, you just can't? Really?
My computer won't handle it. Like
Okay.
it's
So,
if I stream, I'll stream like I've been replaying Zisteria, so maybe
Okay.
I'll stream that.
so
Like,
if Spoon
I'm fine with
streams,
that.
he'll do Zisteria. If for whatever reason we have to pull it out of his hands because of Spectrum, I'll do Tales of Krystoria again. We'll do more raids and stuff. I think a bunch of the old content dropped from Krystoria, so there's probably new stuff to take a look at. Other than that,
Apparently the new banner's trash, but
oh,
you know,
okay. Well,
whatever.
it happens, it happens. I think that's pretty good for Kaluja stuff. Please make sure to follow not just the Twitter, but the Twitch. I saw Gorelia followed. Thanks, Gorelia. And please consider checking out some of our YouTube stuff. YouTube is just, you have to search the Myriathon. And other than that, I don't really have anything to signal boost, to be honest with you, personally. So I will instead say just keep supporting us. That's my signal boost. It's very nice when people support and chat and say hello. We really appreciate it, obviously. I'm going to signal boost and say thank you to Vis for stopping by and being a good sport. And for showing me his soda holster. $10 on Amazon, by
Very
the way.
important.
If you would like
Very
to buy
important.
one, go on Amazon, search soda holster.
Signal.
If you want to be the coolest kid on the block. Yeah, thanks everybody for watching this episode. We are ending slightly early than normal. Normally we go the 2 hours, but I think we've tapped out of our content for today. So just be sure to follow us and keep supporting us. And we will see you guys if you follow my Twitter. If we do some live stream, that'll be great. You'll see that on my Twitter or Spoon's Twitter. If not, hopefully you'll stop by Thursday when we play some games together. And if you can't do that either, next Monday, be sure to stop by. It's our 25th Myriacast. We'll have to celebrate something for the 25th episode. I feel like it's a special episode if it's the 25th episode. So we'll have to pick up something. Maybe we'll do another debate. Who knows? Maybe we'll have chat come in and debate again. Chat already lost to us, so they'll have to redeem themselves. Okay. Thanks everybody for watching. Spoon and Vis, thank you for joining, and we will see you guys hopefully this week. Have a good one,
Have a good
everybody.
night, everybody.
See you, folks.